Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Scott Luton and Kevin L. Jackson with you here on Supply Chain Now. Welcome to today's live stream. Hey, Kevin, how you doing today?
Man, I'm getting into the summer, a summer mood, the mood of summer.
The mood,
And by the way, happy Father's Day.
and you as well. Hopefully, everybody had a wonderful Father's Day weekend. Of course, happy Juneteenth for
Happy
uh,
Juneteenth.
what a
Yes.
wonderful federal holiday now. I guess as of last year for
Mhm.
everybody. We're going to touch more on Juneteenth in just a second, Kevin. But hey, you said, what'd you say? Like happy summer on initially? Is
Yeah,
that what
I'm getting into the summer mood. I tell you,
okay.
yesterday was Father's Day, and I got in summer mood, so I sat around and did nothing.
Okay. Well, speaking of Kevin, speaking of doing nothing, you see my the shirt I've got on today, right? These are
Oh,
the
okay.
the
Oh,
Atlanta
well,
the Atlanta Braves,
you want to
the
go
first
there.
place Atlanta Braves. Now, the research team had to dive into the standings for Major League Baseball, and as of this morning, June 19th, 2023, do you know what Washington Nationals record is today?
You know what? The summer is a great. That's my favorite season.
I'm only kidding. So for all of our listeners out there, Kevin and I have a very friendly
Well, you
camaraderie,
call it
rivalry,
friendly.
whatever
I
between
call it
Kevin's
disturbing.
Kevin's Kevin's DC area sports teams and our Atlanta area sports teams. So nevertheless, hey, let's keep driving, Kevin. Um, so kidding aside, we do want to definitely wish everyone out there a wonderful, happy Juneteenth. This is a really important holiday, and Kevin, you and I are going to touch on a special project from last year. But if we can, for starters, Kevin, tell us in your perspective, in your point of view, why Juneteenth is really important from your perspective.
Well, really, Juneteenth celebrates the day when um, the last slaves was freed in the United States in Texas, and actually happened in Galveston, Texas. It was the last major battle of the Civil War. And while many people think that uh, slaves were freed when President Lincoln announced the Emancipation Proclamation, but to realize that the country was at war.
Mm,
And although the Emancipation Proclamation freed, supposedly freed slaves in the rebellion states, none of the slaves knew anything about the Emancipation Proclamation
mm,
until Union soldiers would emancipate or their particular state or town.
mm,
So the last city to be had a major battle was Galveston, Texas. So that was the last group of slaves to hear about the Emancipation Proclamation.
mm,
And the general that won the battle basically put out a proclamation to inform all of the slaves that they were free and to tell all the slave owners that they no longer own slaves.
mm,
And that was on the 19th of June. Um,
mm,
now, the now what now nowadays, however, it's really expanded its meaning, where it's celebrating freedom worldwide, and the push to eliminate modern slavery.
mm.
Um, a lot of sex slavery that goes on. There is human trafficking that's going on. So there's and it was Juneteenth was made a national holiday last a couple of years ago
Mm,
by um, President Biden.
mm.
So we celebrate it nationally as not just a U.S. holiday, but an international holiday.
Agreed. And I love what you shared there. Not only uh, do we recognize the history of the significance here in the states, and there's certain parts of the country here that have been celebrating the 19th of June for decades, for
Oh yeah,
generations, right?
yes.
And then, so as important as that is, I love the global. perspective with viewing it through, using that vehicle, that history, that dark chapter in our history, but the celebration that Juneteenth is all about, and then using that to put visibility and a spotlight on the modern slavery that exists around the world, unfortunately, and use that as a call to action for folks everywhere to really acknowledge it and most importantly, do something about it. So, Kevin,
Right. To be a day of action. Absolutely.
a day of action. So, one quick call out. I want to share, I think this was last year, Kevin. I'll tell you the days and the months all come together.
Oh, when we were in Galveston.
Yes.
Yes.
So this feels like 5 years ago, but it was just last year. You see Kevin and I both sitting down with locally who they call in the Galveston area and Houston area, Mr. Juneteenth, Douglas Matthews, who is a local leader. And you're getting an important phone call, Kevin.
Yeah, I know. I just hung up on it.
Hollywood is calling you.
It was a Juneteenth call.
So Douglas Matthews sat down with us. He has been for over 30 years, as I recall. He has been working and making sure folks are aware of the history of Juneteenth and getting more folks bought in on the need to celebrate and recognize it and to use it, to your point, Kevin, as a day of service. That was a really special interview. He's a very humble but incredible leader. And then, Kevin, to your point, Tim Nelson made an appearance on that episode. We're going to drop a link to it here in a second. Kevin, tell us about what Tim spoke about and, of course, what Hope for Justice is doing.
Yeah, so Tim is the CEO of Hope for Justice. They're actually headquarters in the UK. They have a national center here, office here in I think it's Nashville, Tennessee. Yep. And they're actually located, they have offices in 8 countries worldwide. And they really focus on ending modern slavery. So we have been collaborating with him in order to expand their program here in the United States, especially because of the fight against human trafficking across the southwestern border of the United States. So the Texas border is really a hotspot for human trafficking. And unfortunately, you hear a lot about people, dying in back of semi-trailers and vans, and they pay huge amounts of money to get smuggled from South American countries, and it's just horrible what they get put through in order just to find a better life.
Agreed. So, folks, use this. If you're new to Juneteenth, hey, dig in, learn more about the history and why it's so important, and equally as important, really do your research on the scourge of modern slavery and human trafficking across the globe, including here in the States. It's sad to know just how much revenue is produced, sadly, from human trafficking and modern slavery, and of course everything else that goes with it. So do your homework, and again, for all the folks out there, happy Juneteenth to celebrate and act together. Okay, so Kevin, I want to make sure everyone knows here is the link to the special episode on Digital Transformers honoring Juneteenth and abolishing modern slavery. So join that. And Kevin, look here. My mom, Leah Luton, is back with us here today. So via Facebook, that's an easy way to watch it. Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, you name it.
Wait, she's a Root. She's always on the show. You must have been a good boy.
I hope so, Kevin. I hope so. But hey, folks, today it's I should have said this in the front end. It's a special edition of the Supply Chain Buzz. It's the Digital Transformers edition of the Buzz. So we're going to be talking about a variety of news and developments across global business with an extra helping of all things technology and digital transformation today. And we want to hear from you, just like Leah Luton popped in there like that. We want to hear from you. So if you're tuned in, watching us live, hey, drop a comment and your take on some of these things we're talking about in the chat, and we'd love to share that with our global fam. Okay, so Kevin,
Yes, sir.
let's see. We talked about Juneteenth. I want to talk about this. With that said, we released over the weekend. I got a little trivia for you. So it was Father's Day, Kevin. Our team,
Okay.
we had a little bit of fun with Malcolm McLean, also known as the father of containerization. Right? Now, here's a little trivia, as I mentioned. So get this, the Ideal X was a converted World War II oil tanker that Malcolm McLean bought from the U.S. government, right? And on April 26th, 1956, sailing out of New Jersey and bound for, we were just talking about Houston, the port of Houston, which is a vibrant, robust port. The Ideal X essentially became the first commercially successful container ship. Did you know that, Kevin?
No, I didn't know that, and I guess that was the forerunner of what caused intermodal system, where
Oh
you take
man,
the container off the ship and put it on a truck and then put it on a train. Um,
it that and then some. It especially when it comes to it powered the global economy, especially
mhm.
as standardization and adoption, and the infrastructure had to adjust, of course, to adapt to more of a container approach. But once all that kind of came together in the decades, I'll call it maybe the 15, 20 years that ensued, man, uh, global shipping, the costs came down. It became easier, right? When things become
Yeah,
easier, folks do them a lot more often. And amongst other, and we don't have enough time to dive into it here today, but ships could get in and out of ports far faster, far faster. So really, it was a really important development to this global economy that we all enjoy, warts and all today, Kevin.
yeah. That really came into focus when all the containers was stuck in China during the
Yes.
COVID, and we couldn't get anything out of China.
Where's my stuff? Where's my
Where's
stuff?
my stuff?
Well, hey, folks, we dive a little more into that story, and y'all can check that out. Use that link to this weekend's edition of With That Said LinkedIn newsletter that we publish just about every weekend, and you can learn more about Malcolm McLean, the father of containerization. Okay, so Kevin, we have one more thing I'm going to touch on really quick before we dive into our first story here today.
All
And
right.
that is this webinar coming up tomorrow, June 20th at 12 noon Eastern time. Kevin, count them. We're going to offer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 reasons network design is essential to supply chain resiliency. So join us as we welcome in our friends from OptiLogic and CH Robinson. It's free to join, but you got to register, and we're dropping the link to do so in the chat. Now, Kevin,
You get so much information to those webinars. People don't. I mean, this is like going to school for free. I think people don't realize how much real, useful, actionable information and knowledge is delivered through these webinars.
you are so true, Kevin. I'm glad you mentioned that because knowledge is whether it's digital knowledge or in-person knowledge or any kind of
Yeah.
version, it is power, right? And you can get better at your job. You can help your organization get better at what they do. And who knows the universal themes that really connect this subject to that subject to that subject across global supply chain. So, Kevin, we invite folks to join us again tomorrow, June 20th, 12 noon Eastern time, as we dive into this topic here today. One last thing, Kevin.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but whenever I count things off, my brain goes straight back to on Sesame Street. There's a little animated snippet. There's a pinball machine. And you're laughing, so hopefully you know what I'm talking about. But it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, Kevin?
No, I never saw. I never even heard of Sesame Street.
Sometimes whenever folks are
Yeah.
counting something off, I'll share that little riff, and most
Yes.
folks have no idea what I'm talking about. But Kevin, I am glad you do.
I'm not that old. I'm sorry, Scott. You got me beat there.
You got good genes, Kevin. You got good genes. All right, so heads up. We're getting a little notification that LinkedIn comments may not be coming through. So maybe LinkedIn's got one of their famous glitches they have from time to time. So Josh Goody and Tom Rafter are here. Korai Koze with our friends at Everstream are here. Now get this, Kevin. Korai says, "Hey, glad to see you back, Scott. You got some sun in Cape Town." Hey, I might have gotten a little sun. He says, hashtag slavery isn't only one society's problem. It's our challenge as humanity. Not fighting it is not an option. So he appreciates Scott and Kevin and Hope for Justice pushing this, and we should all help to fight it. Korai. Absolutely. Kevin, your quick comment there?
It's important. I mean, just recognizing that it's an issue, as you say, that's the first step, right? Recognizing there's a problem. And then you can engage people to actually take action to solve the problem. So thank you very much for highlighting that.
That is right. Korai, great to have you.
We are a global society. So what problems arise in one country really affects all countries.
That's right. And we have dysfunctions like any global family does. Crazy Uncle Jimmy has a little too much fun at our certain reunions. I'm hoping we don't have an Uncle Jimmy. I hope you don't have an Uncle Jimmy, no. Kevin. We're not picking on anybody, I promise. All right, so let's get into.
Have any Jimmys in the stream here?
I don't see any just yet.
Disparaged all our viewers. Jeez.
All right, so let's get into our first story here today on the Supply Chain Buzz Digital Transformers Edition. And surprise, surprise, just like Gomer Pyle, it's about digital transformation. So let me pull up this graphic here, Kevin. So this article here, interesting interview from our friends at Retail Touchpoints. It features Matthew, I'm going to say Houle, Houle, Matthew Houle, I think, the CIO of Aldo Group, as he shares key takeaways from their ongoing digital transformation. Kevin, tell us more.
Well, actually, he was very focused on the retail industry, right? And he talked about like the two major challenges that arise when you're doing digital transformation. The first we've talked a lot about is actually harnessing and leveraging data. You need to be very effective of not only recognizing the data that's important, but dealing with the exponential growth in data generation and availability. So the CIO of any organization, not just in retail, has to harness it effectively. You have a whole lot of data at your disposal, from customer behavior to their preferences to insights, actual insights. But so it involves not just the right technology, but also the right skills, processes, and culture to manage and use the data. And the second challenge you talked about is having agility in your organization. The marketplace is global and it's dynamic. So you have to ensure that you have agility built into your technology strategy. Digital transformation isn't a one-time thing. It's a journey. It's a continuous journey. And especially in retail, which is a highly dynamic industry, you have changing customer expectations, emerging technologies, and really evolving business models. So you need to be ready to adapt and adopt actually quickly and pivot strategies as necessary. So while recognizing these two challenges to a CIO, he also brought up the five. We were doing numbers again. Five. But this is the Sesame Street of supply chain. Five, the number five.
That's right.
CIO priorities. And first is prioritizing your customer in every decision. In every technology initiative, you must really ask, how does this benefit your customer? How does it enhance their experience? Second, while you're leveraging the data, don't forget the human. We talk
Mm,
about this often, right? Data is crucial for personalizing the customer experience and making informed business decisions. However, it's important to remember that data is just a tool, okay? It's not a substitute for human insight and understanding.
mm,
Number three is agility. Okay, the pace of change is accelerating, and agility is more important now than ever. You must be ready to adapt and adopt quickly to changing customer expectations. Number four, cybersecurity. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. Cybersecurity and privacy, as he says, is non negotiable. As
mm.
you become more digital and data driven, it's really, really important to have cybersecurity in place and privacy. It cannot be overstated. You must ensure that your systems and data are secure and that a customer's privacy is protected. And finally, number five is collaboration across all of your operational silos. Creating a seamless customer experience requires collaboration, and it's not just the job of the IT department, but of the entire organization. So if you understand and focus on those challenges, and also focus on addressing the five CIO priorities, you're really going a long way with respect to digitally transforming your organization and your supply chain.
Well said, Kevin. Great story. And of course, we're referring to this retail touchpoints piece. Sit down with Aldo Group CIO, lessons and priorities learned from their ongoing digital transformation. Two quick thoughts there, Kevin. First off, I am so glad you mentioned adapt and adopt, especially the
Yes.
emphasis on the latter, because as leaders out there, as they're selecting technology, hopefully with their teams, but eventually you purchase it, you bring it in, you got to implement it. And then, of course, users have to adopt it and get this, use it. How about that? And you can have the best, latest, greatest magical wand, right, that will do enormous things. But without critical adoption, you get nothing. You get nothing. It's kind of like going back to that containerization. If
Yeah.
ports and markets around the globe had not adopted containerization and bringing in the right cranes and just the ports so they can shift over from bales to entire containers, then that, which was the latest greatest thing in supply chain since sliced bread, none of that would have taken off and transformed the global economy. So I'm glad you mentioned adopt and adapt. And then secondly,
Yeah.
go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah. One of the things, executives, when they have to make a decision, typically or traditionally, it's always a buy or build decision, right? You either build what you need or you buy what you need. But in today's world, you can also rent what you need.
Ah,
It's build, buy, or rent, and adopt and adapt. Both of those are very important when you're either buying or renting.
right. Excellent point. Excellent point. And of course, whatever option you choose, your kids then come steal it from you. So, all right. Hey, Kim Winter, good to see you. Kim is with us here, probably via LinkedIn. We're still having a problem with LinkedIn comments, but he says, greetings from the Middle East, all. Lots of agility and growth going on around here, Kevin. And you're
Oh,
right, Kim, across
yeah,
the Middle East.
I was just in Egypt, and next month I'll be in Dubai.
Yes, man. All right. So, Kevin, you're going to have to connect, if you don't have plans already, with the one and only Kim Winter. Is going to meet the one
Will
and only
do.
Kevin L. Jackson. Wonder Twin Powers activate.
Oh
What
wow.
one other
Oh,
quick thing from this article that we're talking about from our friends at Retail Touchpoints. So the CIO states in this interview, Kevin, you kind of touched on this, I think, but the Aldo Group is keenly interested in three key needs: unified commerce, sustainability, and then personalization. Now, on that last one, Gartner identified mass customization as a big shift years ago. I bet old Corey Korai was part of that awesome research.
Probably.
Now, as it dawned on me, Kevin, in the last week or two, so we've been flying forever. I can remember flying 20 something years ago when I was in the Air Force for the first
Mhm.
time, and back when they had curtains, and little prop jobs. They go from Wichita to Kansas City and Kansas City to Atlanta, and there was like 3 people in the whole plane. Remember the good old days of having your seat to yourself? But anyway, kidding aside, so this mass customization, if you remember back then, if your plane was fortunate enough to have a movie on it, everybody watched the same
The
movie, whether
same
you liked
movie.
it or not, even if it was the really bad movie like Bewitched, as my wife made me watch 15 years ago in the movie theater. But everyone had to watch it. And these days, as I was flying last week, it dawned on me as I kind of took a minute and just looked around the cabin.
Yeah.
Every single passenger's got their own video screen watching all kinds of different stuff. And that really is a real simple illustration of where we're headed. That mass customization far beyond global air travel. But Kevin, does that resonate with you? And what else comes to your mind maybe when you think of mass customization?
Well, it's actually also what you have access to. Last time I was flying, last few times, I had to, connect to the internet while I was in flight because I had to either research something or finish a document before I landed or send an email or get an email or actually chat in real time through WhatsApp, right? So we just don't realize how far we have come with technology and how valuable it is. But it's not the technology that really matters. It's the information, right?
Right.
Connectivity, so you can get information, so you can connect to humans. So that's really
Excellent.
important.
Excellent point, Kevin. And that access, that I want to call out the digital divide. There's lots of folks, lots of communities that don't have the access to information and technology that they
Yeah.
need. But hey, we'll save that for another show. So, Kevin, for the sake of time, we've got another article, another news story
Mhm.
here that we want to dive into. And I'm going to pop up this. Well, I'll bring that graphic up in a second. So, our friends at Accenture, Kevin, recently released the State of Cyber Resilience 2023 report. And I think you want to offer up your observations in kind of like 2 parts, 2 containers.
Yeah.
What is in contain? What's in container
What's
1,
behind
Kevin?
door one? Oh, so we were talking about Aldo and the importance of cybersecurity and privacy, right? When you're with your clients. So what Accenture is actually coined, I guess, is this term of a cyber transformer. He said they're basically saying that digital data is critical, but you have to also be a cyber transformer. And that means integrating cyber security
Mm,
and risk management in your business. You have to leverage a risk-based framework into your cybersecurity actions and decisions across your organization. And that includes not just your operations, but your making sure that your executive leadership agree on a priority of assets. And those assets are data, right, to be protected. And to consider cybersecurity risk to be a major component of your overall enterprise risk. It also talks about, and we could mention about, build, buy, or rent,
mm.
leveraging cybersecurity as a service in order to enhance your cybersecurity operations. No one, unless your business is cybersecurity, it's kind of like impossible for you to keep up with
Right.
the daily risk and problems that occur. So you need to partner with an organization that's focused on cybersecurity so that you can have agility within your cybersecurity operations. So you actually have a process that continuously monitors and reports
Mm.
on the cyber risk. Um, and goes to a larger part is your entire ecosystem. Cyber transformers are more likely than others to take such actions as incorporating their ecosystem or supply chain partners into their incident response plan, and also require them to meet strict cybersecurity standards. So when you're operating in a business ecosystem, as we all do, I mean, I can't name one organization that doesn't have some type of supply chain, even if
Right.
it's just an information supply chain. You have to integrate your partners into your own cybersecurity processes. And this also relies heavily on automation. Cyber transformers are more likely than others to leverage automation as
Mm.
part of their cybersecurity activities. And once again, if cybersecurity isn't your main focus as a business, you would need to leverage another organization that has the resources to invest, deploy, and operate automation with respect to cybersecurity. Um, and cybersecurity talent is just so scarce and
Right.
expensive in today's world, and
Right.
it's a real challenge for any organization.
Before before you move to part two, you might be
Yeah.
wrapping up container one, but before we move to container two, I want to share something really quick, Kevin. I want to make sure you're
Yes.
all right. Is this a good segue?
Yes. Absolutely.
Okay. I want to give folks, for any of our fellow visual learners out there, I'm a big visual learner. So you can tell me something until my ears bleed. But once I see it, it sticks. And this is kind of what Kevin was just going through. This is the cyber transformers as coined by Accenture. And Kevin touched on each of these four and probably a few others. But you'll see there the big delta that exists between these cyber transformers that are really leading the charge and doing it the right way, and then all the laggards. And you can see the really big delta gaps, or that's kind of redundant, the big gaps between
Yeah.
what cyber transformers are doing and what everyone else is doing. So y'all check that out. And of course, we got a link, I think, to the report that we're going to drop in the chat here. And Kevin, um, give us, you got part two, I think, as you're talking about
Yeah.
what this research points to, right?
Right. Absolutely. And whenever you're talking about, I guess, anything in business, is always priorities. The executives have to deal with priorities. And in today's world, sustainability is becoming a big priority, and how to fit in and support a green economy. But unfortunately, many times that becomes the lowest priority. You know, revenues first. Customer satisfaction. We really don't care about the earth. So that don't sound right, but but that's what happens. Okay, so but if you are a digital transformer within your industry and you want to practice being a cyber transformer in your business, you cannot underestimate or appreciate or focus on, just can't ignore sustainability. And in
Mm.
supply chain, sustainability really is focused on creating a circular supply chain. And there's so many ways that you can address your digital transformation requirements, your cyber transformation requirements, and still be green, still
Yes.
be sustainable. And so Accenture highlights some of the ways you can do that. For
Yep.
instance, blockchain. Blockchain provides shared access, controlled and shared access to data, and gives you the ability to trace and verify actions through the supply chain. The use of a digital identity, leveraging biometrics and facial recognition to verify. The use of biometric payments to share, produce a story, and lets the customer send direct and secure tips with fast settlements. Circular production, right? Better resource planning
Huh.
and utilization, capturing product authenticity to prevent knockoffs and confirm labor sources so that you're not sending your money to places where there's slave labor, for instance, or child labor.
Mm.
And leveraging technologies, adopting technologies that support rising consumer interests. This is your digital transformation. And finally, ensuring that positive social impacts. Humans are critical, humans are important. And your circular supply chain holds the potential to really change how food and retail goods are produced, which enhances the producer's incomes and environmental incomes and outcomes. It really supports Mother Earth.
Love that. We got to do a lot more of that, a lot more action. I want to go back to something, that highly technical term that you used. Avoid knockoffs, folks. Avoid knockoffs. Watch out for Uncle Jimmy and his knockoffs. So, but good stuff there. And I also
counterfeits. Maybe that's the professional word, right?
That's right. Hey, we've got a link again. Y'all can check out the report here, and I want to add a little footnote to that. So the research behind this report, Kevin, included insights from 3,000 business leaders, including 2,500 chief information security officers and some 500 CEOs and CFOs. And two things there. One key recommendation, and you touched on this, but Kevin, I think on the first part, from the research, hey, appoint a cybersecurity leader as part of the core digital transformation team.
Yes.
That person's responsible for orchestrating with their baton, right? Cybersecurity across all transformation initiatives. To Kevin's point, it's a team job, but having one person to really make that be the reason they jump out of bed in the morning, it's really, really important. And then secondly, Kevin, I'd love for you to speak to either one of these. In larger organizations, more and more, just like we all celebrating the last, 5 years or so, how now chief supply chain officers are a thing. There's more and more. They're multiplying.
Yeah.
Well, more and more, we're seeing both chief information security officers as well as a lot more chief cybersecurity officers. And one little factoid. This is so trivia is going to be another theme here today. It's widely held that Citicorp created the first chief information security role in the mid-90s after a cyber breach. Kevin, your final thoughts here.
Well, a lot of times they say cybersecurity is everyone's job, but there's a corollary to that. If it's everyone's job, then it's no one's job. I've heard that, right? So yes, it's key to have a leader, someone that's going to set the standard. Somebody is going to provide, the right information to the rest of the organization and to coordinate activities across all the different parts of the organization.
Yep.
And data, is the lifeblood of any organization. So, and you need to protect that data, ensure that that data is protected, and that you address all of the privacy issues required, which are different in every country around the region, around the world.
That's right. So good things come to those that have oil, chips,
and data
and containers. So they're the ones buying golf leagues and who knows, football leagues, who knows what's to come. All right. So we got so we're coming around the home stretch here on this edition of The Buzz with Kevin L. Jackson, of course, on the Digital Transformers edition of The Buzz here today. And Kevin, Greg White is on assignment. He's on a sabbatical assignment out there,
He's
Kevin.
on a secret assignment. No, he's a secret agent.
Kevin, I'm glad someone else. I'm glad you validate my long-held suspicion. But hey, speaking of knowledge and data, and Kevin talked about how important learning is these days. Hey, we've got a great webinar coming up later this week, June 22nd. That's Thursday. Man, it's hard to believe we're almost rolling into July, Kevin. So,
making plans.
Hey, This is a special webinar time, 11 a.m. Eastern time, 11 a.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. Central, that's CET. I guess that's Central European time. Feeling the squeeze? Well, we're going to talk about how to meet those on time and full targets in a very uncertain world with our friends from E2 Open and KPMG. So don't miss that webinar this coming Thursday. It's free to join, but hey, you got to make sure you register. We've got the link to do so in the comments there. Okay, so Kevin.
Yeah. One thing, we'll move on.
Please.
Move on. I want to highlight something. If anybody is actually starting to plan for the 4th of July, Independence Day,
okay,
here in the United States. Okay, this is a special Independence Day. Did you know that?
No, please tell me.
So it's every year it's July 4th, but this year July 4th falls on Tuesday.
Tuesday.
So yeah, so look, get this. You have to have the party over the weekend, right? Because it's in the middle of the week. All right. So that means you can tell your boss, hey, I got to take Friday off so I can prepare for my Independence Day party over the weekend, right? So now you have Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And Monday is a holiday because it's 4th of July.
Right.
And then you have the actual holiday on Tuesday, which is the 4th. And then Wednesday, if you have a big party on the 4th, you can't come to work. So
the whole week.
This is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-day holiday. So you really got to make plans.
The whole week. And I remember, I know when you were in the Navy, you may remember this too. Occasionally, when the July 4th would fall on a Thursday or a Tuesday, our base commander occasionally would shut down everything but the critical operations. Right. And we would have, to your point, Kevin, that 4-day holiday. That was a bunch of fun. I spent all my E2 or E3 money at the time, and there wasn't a whole bunch of that. All right. So speaking of travels and incredible people, I want to, Kevin, if you got a couple minutes, and I hope you do, I want to share about some of our experiences as Amanda and I went to South Africa last week.
It's on my bucket list. I want to do a safari.
Oh, Kevin, I tell you, we're going to, when you're ready to plan that trip, I've got the experts that will connect you with, and you'll have a great trip just like we did. So we went down there. Kevin, you may know we've been investing in the supply chain leadership across Africa series here at Supply Chain now for a couple of years now. And Amanda, by the way, Amanda, Catherine, big thanks to both of y'all behind the scenes helping make the show happen. I'm not sure how many episodes we're up to. I want to say probably about 24 is my guess. But anyway, so we've been conducting that series, Kevin, with Jenny Froome and Sapix for a couple of years now. And I'll tell you, it was wonderful to be IRL in real life with this wonderful supply chain ecosystem of brilliant people and companies really across the African continent. Yeah, it was in Cape Town, South Africa, but there were folks from Nigeria, Mozambique, all different countries across Africa, and Europe, and of course the States. It was just a great, I think our dinner, Kevin, the dinner, which kind of was like the closing ceremonies. We had more than 35 countries represented as part of that dinner. Anyway.
Wow, that's huge.
So Kevin, have you ever heard of Table Mountain?
No.
So check this out. So
that must be it right there.
Yes. Yeah, so this is the waterfront. As we learned, this is just a portion. The waterfront's massive, but it's really a commerce center, probably the commerce center of Cape Town. So if you ever go to Cape Town, you want to hit the waterfront. But here, right behind, you see this is Table Mountain here. Massive. It's iconic. Almost anywhere you go in Cape Town, you look over your shoulder and you've got
flat as a table.
Yes, that's right. Hence the name. And then over here on the left is Devil's Peak. And then on the right, you can't see it, but you got Lion's Head over there. So just the gorgeous mountain range, urban mountain range, really was fascinating to see. And get this, a couple of my favorite quotables, Kevin. So I sit down, we did 9 interviews, in a single day, and then we had several other
Wow,
exchanges. Yeah, we were. Hey, Kevin,
a lot of work.
we were working. Yes, sir. We
No,
were
I don't
working.
believe it. You're just trying. You were over there vacationing. I understand. Now you're trying to lie
Well,
to, you know.
you mentioned safaris. I learned that there are no tigers in the entire African continent. I gotta admit, I didn't know that. So I think several folks chuckled at me when I said I'd like to see a tiger or two during my time. So I'll put that aside for now. But hey, Azuka Okeke,
Right.
incredible supply chain practitioner and leader. She said, and this was inspiring to me at least, quote, action. Don't just have policies, don't just have strategies. Make sure you act on them. Make sure you are accountable for them and deliver to impact. End quote.
Yes. Oh wow.
Kevin,
Powerful.
Kevin, she said that on cue. She didn't. I mean, it was like, give us one thing that supply chain leaders, business leaders need to keep in mind. And it was eloquent. If we'd had Academy Award there, we would have had presented it to
Wow.
Azuka. But Kevin, your thoughts around paralysis by analysis and the best of lip service, but sometimes it doesn't lead to action, right?
So what immediately comes to mind is FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt.
Mm,
And that's the enemy of action. FUD is the enemy of action. So you need to really understand challenges. You got to understand the good and bad, the pros and cons of every action. So it's not to say that you don't do analysis, okay, but also don't be afraid of making a decision.
mhm.
And the reason you can't be afraid is because you can always change. All right, there's nothing that really locks you in forever. You can always change, and you should always change. Whenever you make a decision, you also have to consider what if it doesn't go right? How do I back out of that decision,
That's
or
right.
how do I reset from that decision? So all of that is needed beforehand, but don't fail to make the decision.
Yes, I'm with you. Well said, Kevin. You get an Academy Award as well. Always poetic, and the acceptance speech coming up soon. But folks, so check that out. We're gonna be releasing these interviews soon. The other thing I really loved, and there were so many. I had
Mhm.
my 17 pages of notes. So Deborah Dole, a friend of the show, was there as well, and she led off our time together, Kevin, by making a very simple but really important observation. And she's traveled the world much like you, Kevin, extensively. And she goes, "Hey, every time," and I'm paraphrasing, but she says, "Every time, fly around the world and visit folks, especially in Africa, I'm reminded that people are kind." And
Yeah.
Kevin, that really, me, I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff because I believe it in my heart. Right? It's really important. And that just was a great way to start my session with Deborah. So stay tuned for that as well. And Kevin, I know you believe that as well, right? It's really
But
important.
yeah, yeah.
Mutual
Most
positive. I've heard it said before. Positive mutual assumptions. We can't let our brain assume that folks are out for the worst things. It doesn't mean we don't keep our head on a pivot and trust, trace, and verify. A little play on what you shared earlier, Kevin. But people are kind. Kevin, your thoughts?
99% of the people that you interact with will treat you right and do the right thing when faced with a decision. It's that 1% you have to worry about. But don't ever, I try not to ever assume that any action is based upon malice.
Mm,
Because even if someone does something that may hurt you or may be against what your goals are, you need to keep thinking that, you know, the overwhelming uh, issue is that most people will not don't take action in malice, right? People make mistakes. People take action based upon lack of knowledge or misunderstanding of knowledge, but that's not malice. That's not
right.
because they are trying to hurt you. So don't assume that people are doing things just to hurt you. That's hardly ever the case.
Kevin, well said. Well said. And hey, one of the point I wanted to share is big thanks to our dear friends, a man on behalf of me and Amanda and the whole fam, Jenny and Clive Froome, and of course Ken and Pat Titmus, who showed us around Cape Town one Thursday during the day, and we went to Kevin. Everyone hears about the
Mhm.
penguins in Cape Town, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, the penguins are fighting to protect their numbers. We learned a ton at a rescue center where
Wow.
they rehabilitate a variety of birds, but including penguins, who are the African penguin is really facing an uphill battle. So, Kevin, when you're ready to book, and hey, I'm not a travel agent, Kevin, but you come come
You
see
got the
me.
list though, right?
That's right. I got a book somewhere, but we'll get you connected with the
One of those
beautiful people.
notes.
That's right. All right. So, Kevin, I've got a little bonus question here. But we're gonna make sure folks know how to connect with you and the Digital Transformers series, and we got lots of shows. You got like a hit factory. It's like
Yes.
Motown over there at Digital
Yeah.
Transformers. But hey,
Yeah, we got a lot in the can right now, that's for sure.
we absolutely do. So before we talk about that for a second, you as you returned from Egypt, it's been about 2 years ago or so. We got some really cool footage. I saw you of your travels. I saw some great interviews, and now you're going back to Dubai. I think I heard in a few more weeks. What was
Yep.
one? We have international flair here today. What is one of your favorite eureka moments or observations from your time in Egypt a few weeks ago?
Well, sort of the view on life was one of how the Egyptians view life was very enlightening to me. Um, you know, COVID is not that far away, right? It's sort of lurking right there. I'm getting ready to go take my next booster, like everyone should. I'm going to
Right.
put a plug there. But we went out and we were at the market in Cairo, the old market in Cairo, and my host asked me, Amir, he said, "Hey, want to go eat dinner?" I said, "Yeah, I mean lunch. Let's go eat lunch." So we went and we ate lunch, and he ordered, and all the food came, but there's no utensils on the table. So me being a snotty nosed American, I'm saying, well, okay, or maybe you don't have forks, but at least have a chopstick or something. so, but Amir, all the food comes and Amir just starts digging in. He puts his hands in the food and starts eating this. He puts his hand over his bowl and starts eating. And he said, "Come on, eat." I said, "Oh, no utensils." "No, we eat with our hands here in Egypt." And I said, "Okay." And I've been in places where I've been in the Middle East before, and I've
Right.
eaten with my hands. It's not like I'm, snooty or anything like that. But COVID was just,
We've all been trained these last few years. Yeah, I'm with you.
it's like, you mean, you don't have gloves to put on? You're going to eat with your hands at least, you know? And I said, okay, let's eat here. But tell me, just a few months ago, we had a global lockdown on because of COVID. And, people just wouldn't touch anything,
Right.
let alone food. Um, and I said, during the lockdown, you had lockdowns here. He said, yeah, we had lockdowns. So when you had lockdowns, did you still eat with your hands? He said, well, yes, of course we eat with our hands. He said, eating is just like building camaraderie and building trust
Mm.
across the community. And if you can't eat with your family and friends, then there's no real reason to live.
Mm.
So we said, well, if we can't eat with our hands and with our family and our friends, then so be it, right? We're going to enjoy life
Mm.
even with COVID, and we're not going to worry about COVID, and we're going to eat with our hands. And it was just just then it said, you're absolutely right. No
Yes.
matter whatever, no matter what challenge you have in life, life is about maintaining your relationship with your family and your friends.
Mm.
And if that means eating with my hands during COVID, so be it.
Mm. Kevin, uh I'm so glad you shared that, and in a broader sense, something you shared there. The power of breaking bread with people, regardless of
Yeah.
what your utensil is of choice. Man, there's immense power there, and there's life. As I've come to appreciate it more and more with three kids. Because your mindset shifts, right,
Yes.
and evolves as you get older. But life more and more is about the simple things, including having meals with your folks that you've known for a long time and folks you just
Yeah.
met. So I appreciate
Yeah.
you sharing that, Kevin. All right. So, and one of the little factoid, a lot of folks may not know, Kevin, that when you were prior to big things in business, when you were still in the military, you were part of, I guess I'll use a diplomatic mission for lack of a better phrase, but you were kind of like part of delegations in different countries, including the Middle East. Is that right, Kevin?
Yes, I actually did a lot of in the military. You would do exchange duty, right, and where you would go and work with another country and learn about how they operate and how they work, and
Mm,
also did a lot of work with NATO. So it's really important to understand that every society has its own norms, but none of them are they're just different. They're not
that's right.
good or bad. I mean, they're just different, and it's important to understand how culture plays
Mm,
in all that we do as humans.
that's right. All right. So the hits continue with Digital Transformers, folks. If you haven't yet, if you're one of the three people out there that haven't checked it out yet, do so. You can find
Yeah,
Digital Transformers with Kevin L. Jackson wherever you get your podcast from. But Kevin, tell us. Let's see. We're about to drop an episode tomorrow. I think, Kevin. Is that right?
not tomorrow, but we just last week we
Just last
released
week.
an IBM episode that I recorded from SAP Sapphire, and that was a really great opportunity. In Orlando, Florida, I was working with both SAP and IBM. Did like uh, five recordings, interviews while we were there, and they're all in our edit shop right now. So, and then we came back and we have AT&T
Yep.
show that's going to be coming out in 2 weeks. So we're actually, and then next month I think we have two shows coming out next month, and then I tell you, it's been. You say summer is supposed to get easy. No,
Yes.
it's a lot. I mean, it's humping up, and then we're going to go. Like I said, we're going to be in Dubai, where we're doing a Beyond Cloud event
Yes.
in Dubai. And that's going to be with Amazon Web Services. We're going to do a lot of. We're going to do some interviews there as well. So there's a lot going on. Stay tuned for the
Stay
Digital
tuned.
Transform.
It's coming. It's coming. It's already here, but we got a lot more coming. All right. So, and Kevin, if you have beyond finding Digital Transformers with Kevin L. Jackson, wherever you get your podcast from, how else if folks want to compare notes with you, if they want to talk shop, they want to have you come out and speak to their event or what have you, how can folks connect with
Yeah,
you, Kevin?
LinkedIn is always easy. It's always the best. And or on Twitter, Kevin underscore Jackson. And you can also find me on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, Kevin Jackson underscore tech, and on TikTok
Man,
as well.
everywhere,
I'm
everywhere.
everywhere. I'm everywhere.
And you join us here every, I think, third Monday, right?
Uh, yeah,
Of each
every
month.
yeah. What is second Monday? Every second Monday. We
Second
didn't do it
Monday.
last Monday, but it's normally every second Monday. This is an
Yes.
odd week for Digital Transformers on the Buzz.
Our
Actually,
travel got in the way. That's right. So you can find Kevin here. Beyond all those places, you can find him here on the Buzz on every second Monday of the month.
yeah,
Kevin, always a pleasure hanging out
this is
with
fun.
Kevin L.
We're,
Jackson.
we're not out of time, on. Well,
Now,
hold it.
We're right up against it. Right up against it. But Kevin L. Jackson with Digital Transformers, appreciate all you do. Love our time together
Well,
and all that we learned from you and your expertise and your travels.
This is great. I mean, please have me back on your show.
We sure will. We sure will. But folks, hopefully, thanks for everyone. And hey, look, I apologize. I know we couldn't recognize many comments. We'll go back and we're going to dive into the LinkedIn mechanism there. But hey, hopefully you enjoyed the conversation that Kevin and I had here, chock full of practical takeaways, I believe. But it's about picking one and putting it into action. You got to make a decision eventually, or you certainly will be paralyzed, and that doesn't do anyone good. So deeds, not words. Yep. Don't be afraid, as Kevin shared. Take action. Hey, even go find crazy old Uncle Jimmy and sit down and break bread with him. That's a good thing to do. But hey, whatever you do, folks, kidding aside, hey, happy Juneteenth to all the folks out there. Do your homework. Dive into the history of the holiday and the significance, and more importantly, of how we can use it as a vehicle globally to do the right thing and eradicate modern slavery and human trafficking. So on behalf of Kevin L. Jackson, the rest of our team here at Supply Chain Now and Digital Transformers, Scott Luton signing off for now, challenging you to do good, to give forward, and to be the change. We'll see you next time right back here at Supply Chain Now. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.